Hello, Internet. I'm Jackie Fox, and I'm going to be doing something new today. Hopefully, at some point in time, I can get Ground News to allow me to do ad reads for this channel. It is unlike, I don't know, I always feel like, whenever I see a YouTuber do an ad read, it's just for money, and believe me, I need it. But at the same time, it is actually a service I use, and is a service that's going to be spotlighted today. And if I do more videos like this, I can't imagine an easier place to do an ad read. But before we get into the news that you may have missed over the last month, YouTube really wants me to be anyone but who I am. Just, change your face, change your voice, change everything about you, become a completely virtual human being, and, turn your whole channel into something fake. Yeah, that's where we're going, guys. All right, so Blindspot report, most recent. And what this is going to do, this is going to show us, according to a wide swath of mainstream media and even a lot of non-mainstream media, just all the media that they could find. They're going to show us what stories one side of the media, by its bias, is reporting and what the other isn't. So there's usually like one of two ways that this works out. Either a story is particularly bad for one side of the American political spectrum, so they completely ignore it, or that story is being grossly misreported by the other side of the political spectrum and they feel no need to report it. And it can often be kind of difficult to tell which of these is which, and it's really something that we should be digging into the articles for. But this is going to be a show about headlines because we're covering a lot of news very quickly. We're just going to be reading the headlines, and if you want me to dive deeper into any of these, if you see a headline that you like, that you would like to know more about, I am happy to, in the following month, do additional follow-up videos based on individual stories. I'll show you kind of how this works, but this website gives me a great platform to be able to do such a thing. So, with all of that being said, let's get into it. What is the left hiding from us? Mayor Eric Adams says Biden's migrant crisis has destroyed New York City. Okay. Okay, sure. Mayor Eric Adams raged on Friday that the ongoing surge of migrants in the Big Apple has destroyed the city as he delivers his latest swipe at the Biden administration. I don't know, man. You're the mayor. I feel like you could maybe do something if it's so bad. What is the right hiding from you? God damn. Singapore plans to execute man over 1 kilogram of cannabis. Wow. Jesus. I'm going to pronounce this guy's name really bad, but Tangaraju Sapaya, 46, was sentenced to death in 2018 for conspiring to smuggle a kilogram of cannabis. Singapore has some of the world's toughest laws against the use and sale of narcotics. Rights groups have been mounting pressure on Singapore to abolish capital punishment. I think it's pretty obvious to see why it's mainly the left that's covering this, although since this is a lot of international press, it's not a lot of sources that you would necessarily know other than, say, like Washington Post, AP, and a bunch of local stuff. So really, this is a story that didn't get reported a lot in general, and hey, it's happening in Singapore. So what is the left missing out on? New York City says shoplifting report says 327 people commit a third of the thefts citywide. That's pretty impressive. New York City is a big place. That's a relatively small number of people to be committing a third of theft citywide. Although, I don't know, New York City probably doesn't have Walmarts. If New York City did have a Walmart, then I'm sure the individual committing a third of the thefts in the city would probably be that individual Walmart location, management, etc. Just saying. All right, what's the right hiding from us this month? Genderqueer tops library books list of challenge books. No shit. The American Libraries Association that Maya Kababe's graphic memoir Genderqueer was the most challenged book of 2022. the second consecutive year that it has topped the list. There are more than 1,200 complaints in 2022 involving 2,500 different books. Wow, that's pretty wild. Um, to be fair though, this isn't as much a blind. I mean, it's literally being covered by twice. Wait, is that the News and Record? Hold on now. This is a local paper. Cherokee County. But where is Cherokee County though? What state is that in, my friend? Georgia. Okay, so this is News and Record out of Georgia. Oops. All right, what's next on our list? See, really, this is just getting covered by the center. Who was the one person? And like a lot of times when it's only one person on one side, oh god, the take ends up being pretty horrendous. Let's go with the yes here. All right, what is the left hiding from us? Biden to hike payments for good credit homebuyers to subsidize high risk mortgages. As a person with a riskier credit rating that is so abused by capitalism that I have no real hope of recovering it, with a lot of people being in such a place where they can't even save money, much less fix a credit rating, I'm not mad. uh, but guess who is? I'm actually not sure how I feel. It kind of depends a little bit. I like the idea in general, but like execution. Yes, okay. All right. What's the right hiding from us? Twitter changes stroke Russian Chinese propaganda surge. It's a, you know, oh, Stoke. Holy shit. Twitter changes stoke Russian Chinese propaganda surge. Wow. Twitter accounts operated by authoritarian governments in Russia, China, and Iran are benefiting from recent changes to the social media company, researchers said Monday, making it easier for them to attract new followers and broadcast propaganda and disinformation to a larger audience. Gotta love it. Um, a lot of left and center there. Okay, split headlines. This week's story: 7 arrested after protests erupt over silencing of transgender lawmaker in Montana. Oh man, these are going to be rough. Okay, from the left, we have The Guardian saying, "Let her speak." Protests after Montana Republican silence trans lawmaker. The Independent also left. Riot police arrest protesters backing silenced Montana transgender lawmaker. Okay, here we're going with the Hill. They're gonna shove the fence post straight up their ass for this. I guarantee you. 7 arrested after protests erupt over silencing of transgender lawmaker in Montana. Okay, that's fair. Political Wire, being another center take, 7 arrested for protesting silencing of trans lawmaker. Even more to the point, Ohio Star, right wing protesters storm Montana Capitol over center of transgender lawmaker. The Ohio Star and Fox News, riot police descend on Montana Capitol as left wing protesters shut down proceedings. I gotta say, I'm not. Given that this is a story about someone who is transgender, I would have imagined that there would be a lot of man pretending to be a woman type of shit in these headlines, but I guess we didn't go super far right on this. Like Fox News is trying to cover their asses right now. I don't think they're ready for that type of controversy. I don't know. I could be wrong. They are pretty vile. That's okay. Most people think DeSantis is running for president. Most of America has relieved unsolicited political campaign fundraising texts and calls. And hey, I was one of the people who voted in that one because it's happened to me. What was the story on that one? We'll find out. But going a week further back, what is the left hiding from us in the news? Senate GOP report raises possibility of 2 lab leaks triggering COVID. And as a matter of fact, there's actually been additional news on this since this would be one that I would be pretty interested in doing a little bit of coverage in. It's something that I've wanted to cover before, but there's just so much on both sides. There's so much information, there's so much conspiracy, there's so much on either side of this that sounds ridiculous or racist. It I just don't think that there's a good answer. Like, I would be much more encouraged to do a video about this if it seemed like there was an obvious solution that one side was hiding from the other, but it doesn't. It seems like it is, while I may believe that there is more evidence on one side than the other, it doesn't seem like there's a smoking gun either way. And furthermore, it seems like a situation in which there may never be one. So that's kind of annoying for being able to report something factual on it. All right, what is the right hiding from us this week? Is it nearly as impactful? Missouri State Senator defends support of allowing 12-year-olds to marry. Of course they don't want to talk about that one. It did show up on Fox News, but that is about it. The left really liked covering this one. And of course they did. It's an excellent dunk on a Republican senator. Okay, what is the left hiding from us? Elon Musk claims the US government had full access to private Twitter DMs. And, I think they're quoting him, like it's in quotation marks, full access here. Twitter CEO Elon Musk claimed in an interview that the US government had full access to users' private direct messages, saying knowing that information blew his mind. Well, I'm not even going to get into the, no. That would be advocacy for violence, even if it is a great blow my mind joke. Yeah, I'm sure he said this. Is it true? I don't know. We'll find out. This, I believe, goes even a bit further than things that were suggested within the Twitter files, and those were questionable at best. So, I'll believe it when I see fucking proof. All right, what is the right hiding from us, and what does it have to do with this eagle? New Jersey charges itself with damaging land it was bound to protect. Man. So, I don't understand exactly. I don't know. Maybe New Jersey is a red state. Maybe this is like Republicans fucking up. I'm not really sure. But it seems like, Republicans being the more anti-environmental protection agency, anti-state, having the high correlation with libertarianism and wanting to destroy the state in any way possible. You would think that this would be one of those perfect stories for them to dunk on the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. But from what I remember reading some of the sources on this story, it's really hard to talk about how they fucked up without sounding quote-unquote woke. Because, essentially they're admitting that they could have done a better job of doing the job that the right already thinks that they shouldn't be doing anyway. So I don't know. Maybe that's why they're not covering it. I don't know. It's a weird one for me. Okay, for the left, and this is what one of those polls was about. Nancy Pelosi's campaign pays Illinois man $7,500 for harassing texts. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's campaign paid an Illinois resident $7,500 in a settlement after the man sued the California Democrat for repeatedly sending unsolicited fundraising texts. So there's a whole, court case and everything here. It seems like this is pretty definitive. I could be wrong. I haven't read all the sources for this one. And usually when I make these, I have read through some of the older Blindspot reports, but usually I'm not going to have a lot of knowledge about what is actually going on in the story unless I happen to see it otherwise. And we are trying to pick up the Blindspot. So there is a potential, a lot of chance that I haven't seen these stories at all. But like, why isn't that? I don't know. Is it because it's Nancy Pelosi? Like, why? This seems newsworthy. Anyways, what is the right hiding from us this week? Missouri House moves to defund all public libraries. Jesus fucking Christ. Are you kidding me? This is the stupidest. Like, y'all just fucking hate books at this point. Like, it's not even specific books. It's all books. Fuck all books. Reading is for losers and Democrats. Fuck me, man. Missouri House Republicans voted to defund all of the state's libraries in a proposed $45.6 billion state budget that will move to a vote in the GOP-controlled Senate. And I gotta say, this is definitely one that I need to follow up because holy shit. That's wild. You know what? I'm not gonna read the split headline for the... Actually, what I should do is look at the polls, though. Alright, so... poll results for the week we got coming next. Do you think that North Carolina government is right to ban participation trophies for government-run youth sports leagues? I think this one was a pretty obvious no. Like, if the individual sports leagues don't want to do it, let them not do it. If they want to do it, let them do it. Let them run their own fucking sports leagues. For fuck's sake, they can give out trophies for whatever they want to. Next poll. Do you think Elon Musk is doing a good job of leading Twitter? Yeah, about 2/3 no there. The white spot is no. The black is yes, though, which is surprisingly a lot more than I thought would approve. Oh well, maybe Blindspot, maybe Ground has some Elon stands. Okay, moving back to about the middle of the month. What is the left hiding from us, and what does it have to do with this military jet? Air Force loosens applicants' body fat requirement amid U.S. obesity surge and recruiting struggles. This one's funny for me because the only place that I have heard about this over the last couple of years are left-wing sources. Now, it's pretty easy to say that I don't really listen to right-wing sources to begin with, so where else would I have heard it? But historically, the left-wing sources that I watch have been covering this story pretty well. But the Air Force is now allowing recruits to have a higher percentage body fat as it struggles to find new members to join its ranks during a surge of obesity among American youth. So, just to add to this story, an additional problem that the military is having in recruiting young Americans is that so very many of us have asthma and other conditions like that, diabetes, hypertension, just things that weren't nearly as common for the youth in previous military recruitment campaigns, or at least we didn't know what these things were, maybe weren't as good as testing for them. But you would have to imagine that the increasing amount of pollution in our air, indoor air quality decreasing, outdoor air quality decreasing, the amount of cars on the road constantly increasing, the amount of factories, popping up next to us, belching fumes into our local neighborhoods. How the fuck don't we all have asthma? If you want to be able to recruit people for the military who can breathe, then maybe you should focus on air quality in the country that you're trying to recruit them out of. Just my thoughts on that story. Fuck the military, by the way. For the right, Iowa won't pay for rape victims' abortions or contraceptives. Which, given that the police only actually investigates 1/3 of all rapes, this is kind of fucked. Especially because they already had a 2 out of 3 chance of being completely ignored, and now even when they aren't being ignored, they're being ignored. So, great. The Iowa Attorney General's office has paused its practice of paying for emergency contraception and, in rare cases, abortions for victims of sexual assault. Now, I'm not sure how many states actually do this. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a very small number, and yeah, this is definitely a part of the culture war. it is particularly interesting that the right isn't covering the tragic aftermath of what they are advocating for. But here we are. And you know what? Now that I'm aware that this is a thing I think that more states should do. For the left, what are we hiding, and what does it have to do with this weird-looking building? Swimming star Riley Gaines ambushed and physically hit after saving women's sports speech at San Francisco State. Now, if you're good at headlines, and you heard the word "saving women's sports" speech, and you thought, "Oh, this is a transphobe." This person got assaulted for being a transphobe and giving a speech about how trans people aren't people. You're right. You're absolutely right. Former NCAA swimmer Riley Gaines was barricaded in a room in San Francisco State University Thursday night after she was physically assaulted following a speech to students about saving women's sports at and here's the icing and cherry on the cake, at a Turning Point USA and Leadership Institute event on the campus. By the way, I did also read through several of the sources on this one. The statement that she was assaulted might be a little bit overblown, might be a lot overblown. The one thing that is certain is that a mob chased her through the hallways of the university until she had to lock herself in a room and get like a police barricade going on until quite a while later people settled down because, not surprisingly, people were pretty fucking upset about this. I would love to see actually more left coverage of that. I think it's worth covering. What's the right hiding from us? Oh, this isn't surprising. Women are still paid less than men at 4 out of 5 employers in the UK. And by the way, absolutely no right-wing coverage of this story whatsoever. Men still earn more than women according to data gathered at the BBC. Despite a continued push for equality, the difference in wages has remained at 9.4%, the same level as in 2017-2018, when figures were first published. All right, what's the left hiding from us about the Department of Justice? FBI documents associate internet slang like based and red pill with extremism. And, yeah, there's definitely a correlation there. I'm sure if you threw a large language model at detecting internet extremism, they would probably pull up words like these as red flags. It's a little bit, just slightly, just a little bit worrying to me personally, even though I think that these are fair ways to target your searches. It just kind of scares me how much we're spying on literally everyone. I mean, I guess I would prefer that spying be targeted if it had to be done at all, and there are some arguments towards it needing to be done, considering how many of the people that are in this description frequently open fire on large civilian populations. But it also is a little bit worrying to me because, they're already looking at us for enough reasons. Now I've got to be real careful not to ironically use the words based or red-pilled. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has a glossary of terms it associates with extremist, involuntary celibate individuals and members of religiously or ethnically motivated violent extremism, including popular internet slang like based and red-pilled. Now, I'm sure that there's a lot of other words in here. I think because there is no left coverage is how we end up with a headline like this, because I think that if someone on the left actually had covered this, they probably would have picked out, I don't know, the word solidarity is probably on there or something, just to help them hunt commies. Anyways, what's the right hiding from us this week? North Carolina seeks to ban participation trophies for children. 3 U.S. Republican state senators want to ban trophies being given out in youth sports to people based solely on their participation. As a North Carolina resident, I would like to say that our state has a lot of fucking problems. We have a lot of issues that our state senators need to be fixing and to be working on. One of those issues is that when the ACA was rolled out, we have our state legislature has stubbornly, despite the fact that it's free money coming from the federal government, rejected the money that we are as a state given to be able to support an expansion of our Medicare for low-income people, such that it would basically provide health care for anyone who couldn't afford a marketplace plan. That leaves many struggling, hardworking, white-collar, blue-collar Americans in North Carolina in a place where they cannot afford healthcare. I know this is a problem across the country. I know it's a problem I talk about a lot. And it's a problem I talk a lot about a lot because it is considerably worse in my state. Like, for instance, there's probably a lot of children in these sports leagues who get injured on an annual basis, whose parents cannot afford proper health care for them. If you really wanted to protect the children who are playing sports in this country, wouldn't you make sure that when they injure themselves on the field, they can get medical help? Wouldn't that make more sense than banning participation trophies? It's just like, you're fucking wasting my time as a citizen of this state by pursuing this kind of absolute bullshit, which affects basically no one, and using that to deflect from and avoid actually doing things involving things that would materially benefit people who live in my state. So, yeah, a little upset about that. Not that I think it's kind of a big deal or anything, whether they do or they don't. It's just like, why is this the thing that you're wasting your time on when we have so many other important things to deal with? Poll for the previous week: should the U.S. government be immune from prosecution for the MK Ultra brainwashing experiments? And no. 87.4% of people made the right answer. No, we should not be immune. We should be prosecuted for that. We did a great harm to a great number of people, and we should make it up to them somehow. Do you think that it was correct for the U.S. to give an exception to Japan to buy Russian oil above the price cap? I really don't know that I know enough about this to have an opinion. Really, I think that this is complicated. I am not, as most Americans are, probably like default in favor of petrodollar economics. And having an oil-backed currency, it causes a lot of damage in the world, in addition to supporting our massive imperialist empire. That feels redundant, but whatever. So maybe it's not a bad thing. I think that there's a lot of ways in which you would see this as a bad thing. I think that the further context of Russia being one of the players involved here, especially while they're, trying to murder Ukraine, definitely makes this feel more like a no. So I get why more than half people said that, but I do think it's a much more complex issue than maybe this graph indicates. All right, moving back another week. What is the left hiding from us this week? Japan breaks with U.S. allies, buys Russian oil at prices above cap. Japan has been purchasing Russian crude oil above the 60 a barrel cap, breaking with Western allies thanks to an exception authorized by the United States. So they're not really doing this outside of our permission. We still authorize this. I do think that, and this is something that this is actually a particular story that I reported on my server in a more general way. By the way, check out the server. There is going to be a link in the description if you want to check that out. When you go in, hit that Friends React to open up the Jackie Fox and Friends channels of the server, and there we're going to have a forum where we're going to be talking about all sorts of news, including the kind of stuff that I'm going to be bringing up in this series. And this is one of the stories that I wanted to cover because, generally speaking, we don't talk about our relationship with petrodollar economics within this country nearly enough. And even there's still only 9 sources. There's only 8 right-wingers that are willing to carry this. Not even Fox News, oddly enough. Fox Business, yes, but not Fox News. Anyways, just so much shit there. Um, all right, what's the right hiding from us this week? Good lord. Tulare Lake returns to California, threatening the global food supply. California's Tulare Basin is known for producing large quantities of almonds, pistachios, milk, and fruit. Now it resembles an ocean. And I actually did see some reporting on this. Definitely not from the right, definitely from the left. And like, I just encourage you to look this up on a map to get some idea of how large a lake this is. It's utterly ridiculous. Like, a lot of land has been flooded. It's it's it it's a wild story. Actually, is that a longer description? Maybe there's a little bit more information here. Once the largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi River, Tulare Lake was largely drained in the late 18th and early 20th centuries as the rivers that fed it were dammed and diverted for agriculture. After powerful storms, rivers that dwindled during the drought are swollen with runoff from heavy rains and snow and are flowing full from the Sierra Nevada. All right, what's the next story that's being hidden from us? What's the the left is hiding something about the gays. You know it's gonna be fun. Trans Day of Violence canceled due to credible threat to life and safety. So, less than a day after vowing to go ahead with a rally in Washington D.C. advocating for transgender rights, a group of organizations that had been planning the event called the Trans Day of Vengeance canceled the Trans Day of Vengeance over a credible threat to life and safety. So let me just, since I did actually look through the sources for this one, let me just give you a little context here, because this is one I really wish someone on the left had covered this to provide this context, but hey, look, it's fucking me. First of all, you know, when people are regularly committing violence against your community, when people are trying to legislate away your rights and try to force you, I don't know, like trying to take away your free will, your freedom of expression, like all of that, push you into a corner. I think vengeance is a bit justified. Yes, it is a pretty violent term, but it was intended to evoke the spirit of anger that has been forced into the gay community through their persecution. If you want them to feel less vengeance, then maybe you should quit persecuting them. Just a thought. The credible threat of life and safety, though, a lot of the right-wingers that covered this all tried to take that quote and make it about the shooting in Tennessee, because they all want to make it seem as though they were afraid that their vengeant trans people were going to just murder everyone. I don't know. That's like the vibe that these articles try to get across without actually saying it and opening themselves up, I guess, to defamation. But actually, the threats to life and safety were being phoned in by right-wingers. It's like, hey, the threats of life and safety are coming from within the house. You know, the house that's reporting on it, not the house that's actually trying to do something about trans rights being taken away. Just saying. So while this should be a story of about how people are, you know, phoning in death threats to a trans event, it's actually not. That's not how it's reported, and that's because no one from the left had the courage to actually talk about this with a level of nuance. What's the right hiding from us this week, and what does it have to do with this building, which I believe is the Supreme Court building? Talking about abortion here in the... Yep. Activist network in Mexico helps U.S. women get abortions. You know, if this worked the other way around, I'm sure the right would be all over it. It's kind of funny, though, that they don't want to report on the desolate situation that American women find themselves in, having to travel to Mexico to get an abortion. They also don't want to admit that this is the obvious outcome of banning abortion in this country. It's almost like they learned absolutely no lessons from the war on drugs. Yeah, I don't know. A network of abortion rights activists in Mexico is finding ways to offer assistance, including shipments of abortion pills to women in the U.S. See, even like smuggling abortion pills over the border, you think the right would love to cover that. They love to talk about drugs coming in over the border. Still, guess it wasn't juicy enough. All right, what is the left not telling us about light bulbs? Biden administration moving forward with light bulb bans in coming weeks. And you know what? It's honestly about time. Again, not sure why the left isn't covering this. It's like every time a Democratic president does something that is unquestionably decent but small, it gets blown out of proportion from the right, and no one on the left talks about it. Do you know how inefficient incandescent bulbs are? That's fucking ridiculous. Like, why? I don't know why anybody still uses them. Like, if you like the vibe, if you like the color or whatever, there are LED lights that emulate that. I mean, maybe it's not the same. I don't know. Whatever. Get a fucking candle if you really feel that way about it. All right. What is the right hiding from us about the justice system? Oh, this is where MK Ultra comes into this. U.S. argues for immunity in MK Ultra mind control case before the Quebec Court of Appeals. A proposed class action lawsuit over infamous brainwashing experiments at a Montreal psychiatric hospital was before Quebec's highest court Thursday, as victims attempted to remove immunity granted to the United States government. The case stems from a class action lawsuit filed against McGill University, Montreal's Royal Victoria Hospital, and the Canadian and U.S. governments after Montrealers allegedly had their memories erased and reduced to childlike states. I don't know why allegedly is in here necessarily. Like, I thought this was something that we had a lot of confirming information on. All right, let's look at the previous week's polls. Ooh, look, that one did not load. All right. Do you think Philadelphia's guaranteed income plan for pregnant women will reduce infant mortality? Yes. Yes. I don't see how it wouldn't. No? How? Women actually being able to get health care during pregnancy seems like it would save a lot of babies' lives. I don't know how you aren't making that connection there. Are you concerned that fewer Americans are prioritizing hard work, patriotism, and religious faith? This is a hard no for me. Not a fucking concern. I mean, look, patriotism is a fucking virus, mind virus. Religious faith is arguably a more beneficial mind virus, and hard work is only good when you're doing it for a good cause, for yourself. There's a lot of people working very hard for very terrible causes, and hard work in and of itself is not necessarily a virtue. Must be seen within its context. All right, one more set of headlines. What is the left hiding from us? Stanford mandates free speech training after protest of U.S. judge. Stanford law students will be required to participate in a half-day session in the spring quarter to educate them on freedom of speech and the norms of the legal profession. Dean Jenny S. Martinez announced the move in an open letter on Wednesday, weeks after students and a associate dean, disrupted a federal judge's address earlier this month. So your associate dean got in on the protest? Look, I'm not even mad, really. It's a half-day fucking class. Who gives a shit, really? I'm sure the dean could have done much worse, having participated in campus protests in my day. I mean, I've been chased around a campus by police. Come on, like just for going to a protest. I had to retreat to a free speech zone where I actually had the right to free speech. I mean, really, if you want some education on freedom of speech, you should try to speak freely in a place where you're not allowed to, and then have the police chase you to a very small area of the campus where you have the right of free speech. That, I believe, would teach you more about free speech and norms than this half-day class, but I digress. All right, the right is hiding something about 5 rainbow flags. Let's see what it is. No right coverage on this. Oh my gracious. Majority of trans adults are happier after transitioning, survey finds. In the winning the No Shit Award of Journalism. Good job. Large majority of transgender adults say that transitioning has made them more satisfied with their life, according to a new survey. The survey conducted by the Washington Post and KFF is the largest non-governmental survey of transgender adults that uses random samplings. Wow. I'm not surprised. And I'm happy to bring that up. Just gonna save that piece of information for later use. All right, what's the left hiding from us about this person? Hollywood's top Native American producer is a fake, activists claim. Heather Ray is identified as Native American throughout her career, but her family records don't show any evidence of it. Okay, so it's an Elizabeth Warren situation. For the right, what is the right not telling us about gasoline? California lawmakers okay potential fines for high gas prices. California lawmakers on Monday approved the nation's first penalty for price gouging at the pump, giving regulators the power to punish oil companies for profiting from the type of gas price spikes that plagued the nation's most populous state last summer. Now, if you are a member of the server, you will probably, maybe you noticed, I posted a video about just why California is weird. The structural, physical, geographical issues that give California problems. And one of the big conversations within that was about oil and gas. In that California has to basically drill and refine its own oil because it is so much more difficult for them to transport it across the country, whereas pretty much everything up to the mountains in front of California is all a part of a rail network, oil pipeline network, etc. Whereas California and some nearby states are geographically cut off from that. So California already has a tremendous problem with gas prices, especially in this country, because they have to do so much more of the work all by themselves. They have so much more issues with getting it shipped to them, etc. But that doesn't mean that price spikes, that price gouging should be allowed. And, once again, this is a case where I hope that California is setting a trend, is setting a standard that will hopefully sweep through the nation. And, these type of laws would be really nice on the federal level as well. And, considering that most of the right-wing outlets, and this is also another interesting feature of this website in particular, but let's see, this should be... No. Oh, well. Anyways, you can see, Fox Business here is owned by the media conglomerate owned by the Murdoch family. So, if you were to look through... you can't really look through the right-wing organizations that aren't talking about this, but I would wager that a lot of them aren't talking about this because they are funded by oil billionaires that make a lot of money off of ripping off Californians on already high oil prices. Just saying. All right, what's the left hiding from us about old women with tiny American flags? Fewer Americans prioritizing hard work, patriotism, and religious faith. In a Wall Street Journal NORC poll, some 38% of respondents said patriotism was very important to them. Some 39% said religion was very important. That was sharply down from when the journal first asked the question in 1998, when 70% deemed patriotism to be very important and 62% said so of religion. Okay. I'm not really concerned. I mean, look, you can be patriotic if you want to. You can be religious if you want to. I think that it's probably an indication that we have become better educated, or I don't know, that it's down to 38%. And I think that's fair. I think that represents groups of people who may actually have good reasons at this point to feel the way that they do. But also, this is like, want to make a point in that these are things that are said to be very important. We're not seeing the numbers of people who think that they're important. I mean, very important, I would say, is probably like the most important thing in your life, right? Like if you say it's very important on a survey, you know, that's your priority. We're talking about prioritizing these things. Should people prioritize religion? Should people prioritize patriotism? Should that be their big thing? No, I just don't, like, unless you're a pastor, right? Unless you went to school for religious studies, unless you're a senator, unless you are a lifelong politician, civil servant, like, I don't think that these things are important to people's lives. So, who cares? All right, what is the right hiding from us about the 52 gay men in prison in Egypt? Egyptian police using fake Grindr accounts to arrest users, app says. LGBTQ dating app Grindr is warning its users that Egyptian police are using fake and hijacked accounts to trap users looking for dates on the app. Cool. Gotta love that big data assisted anti-LGBTQ state supported violence. And here we are about the story about women getting $1,000 a month to combat infant mortality rates. Ooh, look at Business Insider here saying some pregnant people in Philadelphia are about to get $1,000 a month in what the mayor is calling a pro-life program. You know what? It is a pro-life program. This is probably the first pro-life program that makes sense as such to me. As I guess the other ones are more anti-death than they are pro-life. All right, hold up. So let's check out the right-wing headlines for this. This is actually genuinely kind of interesting. Pregnant women in Philadelphia, quote, affected by systemic racism to get monthly income. Or, let's go with the Daily Caller. Philadelphia to offer pregnant people from certain communities $1,000 per month. Oh, they use the scare quotes on pregnant people too. Good grief. Certain communities, probably like the poor, you know, like the people who have been systemically forced into poverty, probably would be my assumption, and that this is likely a means-tested program, which kind of makes sense. I don't like means-tested programs, but okay. It is a pilot program. I mean, look, it's 250 people. They've got to target this. Like, what do you mean? And if you're upset that more people of certain communities end up being targeted by things that target the poor, then you understand why those people are upset that their communities are often the most poor. I don't get how people don't see this stuff. Anyways. Wow, the city has the highest infant mortality rate of the top 10 most populated cities in the United States. It's an effort to combat racial disparities in infant mortality, the health department said. Okay. So this is a question of, should we help poor black mothers or not? Okay. We see how people have gotten onto two sides of this, and we see how one side of those people are genuinely fucking racists. Wow. The premise of the program rests on research showing that more money means lower infant mortality rates. Huh. Just as I thought. Go figure how that works. Oh, from National Institute of Health, no less. Okay. And I think that should be about the end of it. What are the polls? Do you support Biden's approval of the Willow Project? Ooh. Oh, we're drilling in Alaska now. Okay. I'm gonna have to say hard no. Very hard no. Like, I don't know that this no only gets harder recently, in fact. Um, why anyone would think that this is a good idea now is utterly appalling to me. Here we are. Okay. Wow, we're pretty split on this one too. Okay. Do you support COVID restrictions in your area during the did you? Well, that would be a yes for me. Huh. Okay. Well, the user base of this is more divided than I thought, but I think there's a lot of people on both sides who are perhaps a bit further to either side, but still kind of slightly objective, but just by default, by their default biases, they lean a little bit further left or right, and therefore they are questioning of mainstream news sources. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, but it is often a tactic of outside of the mainstream sources to demonize mainstream sources in order to, you know, give themselves leverage over a clearly, I don't want to say superior, because superior sounds better, but like monstrous in size opponent, you know? Like, I'm never going to make a video that is going to have the impact of whatever bullshit is on CNN today. Unfortunately, I don't have the institutional power to do the things with their videos that CNN does. Whatever. So I think that there's a lot of people on either side that are actually interested in concepts like this. I don't think that this is a purely left-wing project or purely right-wing project. We all want to see what we're being lied to about. And I think it's beneficial for both sides. Like, you know, like a right-wing user gets on here and looks at a Blindspot report and they see that there are definitely things that don't fit a particular political narrative that's being crafted for them. Because this was something that my dad often said. Often, news and bias is as much about what isn't reported than what is. And this Blindspot report gives you an avenue, an opportunity to see what isn't being reported and where. So I think that's unique and interesting, and I would love to keep doing this. This is just kind of an easy way for me to make a long video and pump a lot of information out at once, but also it's a really great jumping off point for you and my audience to say, hey, I want to know more about that thing. Tell me more about that thing. Because, let's see, let me demonstrate this with just one of these. So we have 22 sources that have been aggregated here. All I have to do is click on the article. And then look, I can see what the center says. I can see what this says. I can see what someone way the fuck over on the right says. Someone, okay, whatever. Something more on the left would say. And you know, kind of compare and contrast. And to see what different sides are missing, what one side doesn't want to tell you about, etc. All sorts of stuff like that. And even like looking through the ownership and being able to even get more information on the ownership. So like low factuality from two different media bias and fact checking, and they have an additional 3 to determine whether it leans left or right, etc. You also get information on who they are owned by. So this one is a media conglomerate. Let's see. Let's see if we can find any with light blue, wealthy wealthy private owners. Oh, here we are. Wow, the post-millennial. Oh man. So yeah, the post-millennial owned by this guy. Can I Google that? I think I did this last time. Seems that he is a Quebecois. It has been criticized for publishing false and misleading stories, including on COVID-19, as well as its opaque funding and political connections. I was hoping I could look. I just want to know more about this. Okay. Oh, they had Andy No, too. Good lord. Yeah, this is such a garbage publication. But hey, I mean, like, how many other news aggregates or sources such as this will just straight up tag a media source as being owned by a singular wealthy private owner, and then giving you the name of that wealthy private owner so you can look them up and see what their shit is. I think that's really interesting. And look, I'm going to be sending this link to Ground News. Y'all better give me some sort of advertising for this, because come on, look, I know you weren't going to give me much money. It's a small channel, but look, this is already an ad for your product. I just thought it was a great way to do my job. So thank you for making that easier for me. And if you could make it easier for me to get paid for doing that, that would be great too. Definitely encourage me to do more of these, maybe every week instead of every month. Anyways, let me know what you, the audience, think, and just general. Let me know which of these stories you would like to hear more about. Like, which of these stories should get their own video? What should I do more of a deep dive into instead of shallow dives into the headlines? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.